personal page now. I think. Are you in your office at work?
Yeah. I was attending this morning. And I have lunch and okay. Then I will continue attending.
How is the virus there? How are things with the virus in Rio? The COVID-19?
Now here is diminuted the number 300. I don't know. I don't know if in Brazil 300 people death by day, but 300, around 300 by day. It's having down because in April, March, and April we have 3,000, 4,000.
Oh, okay, so it's better now.
Yeah, it's better now.
Okay.
They are having, but we have an economic crisis and political crisis. The food is so expensive now. The basic food, and we are passing by this problem to have rice and beans, Brazilian food. It's very hard, very expensive.
Oh my
Gas.
Wow.
Yeah, it's very. We have to more than now to keep organization the donations and articulate the help for people who need.
Yeah. Oh wow. Wow.
And now they are having the vaccine to adolescents, the teenagers. They are got the vaccine now.
And are people, the adults, have they been able to, particularly Afro-Brazilians, have they been able to access the vaccine?
The first people in the class in January when the vaccine arrived in Brazil, they were only white people. The elderly, but a lot of white people, powerful people, disrespect the order and go first. But now most of people we have, not most, but a lot of Brazilians are denying to have a vaccine too. So we have around 30% of population have the two doses of vaccine.
Okay. Got it. Wow. Okay, so we'll start. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Ifetayo Ojelade, and I am here with my colleague who is based in Rio de Janeiro. Her name is Roberta Frederico, and I'm saying it all jacked up because I'm saying it with my English accent. My sister Roberta is a school psychologist, and she is also the founder of Sankofa Psychology. Let me say it right. Sankofa Institute of Psychology that is based in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. What's up, Mina Irma? How you doing?
Hi, I'm good. I'm very happy to stay here with you when we have some conversation about our practice.
Yes,
it's an honor for me to be here because some years ago, when I was on ABSI convention in 2010, one of my first presentation that I watched was your presentation. When some students, 2010. I remember. I don't know if I have this picture. Then she's so beautiful. She's so old. We were talking about rites of passage with teenagers. I don't know. Rites of passage.
In 2010, talking about IFA probably. Integrating IFA into, because I think that's when I presented my dissertation in 2010.
Maybe.
Okay.
And then 11 years ago, I'm here. I grew up. No,
the ancestors have brought us together. Yes. Despite us being on different continents, having two different languages, the ancestors have brought us together. I think that says a lot about our common struggle as people of African descent in the U.S. and people of African descent, the largest population outside the continent of Africa in Brazil. So, yeah, and I'm very proud of the work that you are doing. Every time I see you online, I'm always really excited about everything that you are doing. How did you get into specifically focusing on Black psychology?
So when I finished my undergraduate school in 2009, I was looking for some theoretical production in psychology and racial relations.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't find this so much books. I was looking for articles, books in Portuguese. I didn't. Brazil was having the first affirmative actions in universities. So when I have just one black colleague at the university, no black teachers, and we felt like two foreigners in university. Now the situation is a little bit different, but the theories are still so Eurocentric. And 2010, I looking at Google. Then I discovered some articles in African psychology and Black psychology. And they have a publication in Portuguese, a book. And there was an article from Baba Nobles in that book in Portuguese. And I was so, wow, it's so different. And in that age, I didn't live any African religion, no experience. So for me, what's so courage? I told him so courage to write those things. And since then, I just studying and going to ABC conventions when it's possible for me, and look on internet, keeping contact, buying books. So I think that Ogun is very near because technology make it possible to buy from Amazon and to send email, and we are here now. And I start like this, more studying about the history and the philosophical foundations, but as a clinical practice, it was a challenge for me. Apply.
Yeah.
Psychologist, some challenge. And I started like this.
I think that's one of the things that a lot of us say that are for clinical practice. Like, we absorb the theory, so we have the books. Like behind me, you got all these books. When we get excited about the books, but then figuring out how to translate the theory to clinical practice can be a challenge. And so, I mean, we'll definitely get into talking about that, because the thing that really stands out for me is the fact that I would see you come to ABPSI all the time. So for those that don't know, it's the Association of Black Psychologists conference. And I would see you come to the conference all the time. And then I was realizing, like, it is very expensive to get from Brazil to the United States. That's not an easy thing to do. So you have to be dedicated, because financially, the economy of Brazil and what Afro-Brazilians make compared to, the economy of the United States, there's a vast difference. So
yes, I had a lot. The first convention, I have a lot of help of my family.
Oh, good.
Yeah, just put everybody, my father, and I working, to go there and stay there, watching, writing, buying books, talking, and and sometimes I was provoked to say, and Baba Noble said, "Where are Brazilians in here? Why Brazilians was not here?" then I know that how expensive and hard is, how difficult it is to some most now. 10 years ago, it was easier because our economy was better.
Oh,
Now
wow.
it's really hard. Our economy is very, very bad. And I take the responsibility to just disseminate with my colleagues, disseminate and just translate and teach, offer sometimes short course, translate, presenting basic texts,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a way for make it these ideas to have more assimilation between people,
Mm-hmm.
and the response that I have is very positive,
Yes.
very positive.
I could tell by like I said, you have a great Instagram following, and I see you putting courses up because you're talking about Baba Wade Nobles, who is definitely one of our thought leaders in Black psychology. And so, I mean, it looks like I can tell people are interested and hungry for this information in Brazil. Other than Baba Nobles, who are other people that you've worked on translating their work so the community in Brazil can see it and read it?
So I had two kinds of works. I
Mm-hmm.
had short time courses with
Mm-hmm.
4 or 6 hours.
Uh-huh.
Then I did translate Baba Nobles, Joseph White,
Uh-huh. Dr. White. Mm-hmm.
Dr. White,
Mm-hmm.
Baba Dr. Nayak Bar,
Uh-huh. Naim Akbar.
uh,
Yeah.
Tata Fukiao.
Yes, Dr. Fukia.
Translate
Mm-hmm.
some chapters on his book Self-Healing
Mm-hmm.
Therapy. And this year we have I had a group study more long, one
Mm-hmm.
semester, our first discipline on African psychology.
Oh,
Then
good.
I did translate Dr. Patricia Nunley, her article
Yes.
about African child and
Mm-hmm.
Ngolo, uh, Baba Kobe Kambon about evaluation, personality.
Yes.
I catch some articles in newspapers and translate this. Baba Kevin Washington,
Mm-hmm.
he has an article from 2010, African Zulu psychology. We studied this article. Um, I think these authors, but I miss one kind of uh, one order more organized, because some of them dialogues,
Mm-hmm.
some of them have contradictions.
Got it. Okay.
We need to do this kind of book, one book on African psychology in Portuguese for learners, for beginners. We need this. I miss this.
So then
You
you can head up that cause. You can head up the cause so that in Brazil. What are there some authors that are writing about Black psychology or African psychology in Brazil?
I didn't understand your question.
So that's a good thing. And so this is the wonderful thing about this conversation is just being able to recognize when we're talking to our brothers and sisters globally of sometimes you got to change it up and even be slower when you're talking. So I was asking, are there any Brazilian authors that are writing about African psychology?
We have some people who are in graduate school who
Mm-hmm.
are talking about this,
Oh,
because
good.
most of authors, most of we have black psychologists, Brazilian black psychologists
Mm-hmm.
who wrote on racial relations and psychology in the past. We have uh, Neuza Santos Souza. We have she was a psychologist.
Mm-hmm.
We have Maria Aparecida Bento. She's working social psychology.
Mm-hmm.
She works on whiteness in Brazil. She has a very strong, a very powerful book. But talking about uh, Afrocentric epistemology, we are arriving now. We have students on graduate school looking for programs
Mm-hmm.
and talking with the community, articulating with capoeira, articulating with quilombolas communities, making research,
Mm-hmm.
candomblé house. We
Yeah.
have some candomblé. We have some psychologists who are priests and
Mm-hmm.
candomblé. And people, I felt that the thing is happening now. I think that people are looking for, every time I have received somebody asking me, what postgraduate, what graduate program can I look for to talk in African psychology? Because we don't have teachers
Right.
in African psychology for accepting students. So
Mm-hmm.
people are opening the ways now.
Is there a difference in the US? There's this tension between the idea and concepts of Black psychology versus African psychology. Have you noticed that same thing in Brazil?
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes. I try to explain this,
Mm-hmm.
that African psychology has more radical, more uh, the philosophical uh, basis is more centered in African cultures like Kemet, like Yoruba,
Mm-hmm.
Akan,
Mm-hmm.
and Black psychology is more the diasporic experience,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
the local experience. I can talk about, I used to talk this about with the students. Sometimes people talk about use the more the political lecture, the political scene, the political worldview
Mm-hmm.
on being black and a situation of oppression, racial oppression, and just use the tools of traditional psychology. I think that sometimes people try to do this. So psychoanalysis talking about racism. Okay, Gestalt therapy talking about racism.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So okay, that makes me think. And so if you think about Gestalt therapy, which is a European psycho psychology, psychological theory, if you think of Gestalt or psychoanalysis or cognitive behavioral therapy, why do you think that those theories work for Afro-Brazilians?
Hmm. I think that this question is difficult to answer because you know mm, for a long time black people was so far from psychological care,
Mm,
so it's hard to answer this because they didn't worry about black people,
mm-hmm,
and black people are arriving now. We have affirmative action, and black psychologists are growing in number of professionals.
mm-hmm,
Mm, 15 times ago to now.
mm-hmm,
When we have affirmative action, we have more colleagues forming, finishing the course. And now these colleagues are applying these theories. and pointing racism in some tears, or trying to show how useful some of these tools can be.
Got it.
For example, people talk about systemic family therapy, talk about ancestry
Yeah.
and family tree.
Mm-hmm.
So this could be useful for us. Yeah.
And I can see that. I think for me, it's all about like how you frame things. How do you talk about things? I've always thought of family and family systems as useful because they talk about family trees and family genograms. I think that you have to take it a step further and really begin to talk about ancestry and recognize that there's not just the psychological or the physical component, but there's also a spiritual component of ancestry.
Mm-hmm.
But that's me, just kind of from the lens, the worldview that I'm looking at. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Dr. Ifetayo Ojelade. I'm speaking with my colleague who is in Rio de Janeiro. This is Roberta Frederico. She is a school psychologist. She's also the founder of Sankofa Institute of Psychology. If you have questions or comments or just thoughts or, definitely questions on African psychology and its role in treating people of African descent in Brazil, put them in the chat so we can get you in on the conversation. Roberta, how do you take the concepts of African psychology and apply it to the work that you do with your clients?
So yes, I like to work with this conception of ancestry.
Mm-hmm.
I believe this in Brazil is difficult to use this concept of spiritness,
Right.
but each case is one. What happened in the therapeutical relation is very personal,
Mm-hmm.
you know. Then I used to talk about the importance of the nature, the importance of to take some. We can see African elements when you look more deep. You see, but the importance of people to take some sun for have one kind of treatment of depression, for example, take some to see the sea,
Mm-hmm.
go to the sea for stabilize the humor, uh, the element, the food, the kind of food we have influence in our state, the well-being.
Yes.
Then I used to suggest some books talking about the discussing how racism affect us,
Mm-hmm.
because we have a situation here that some people don't know who they have African ancestry,
Yeah.
because we have in Brazil we have this disconnection,
Mm-hmm.
and we have the political of miscegenation,
Yeah.
and in 19th century we have some politicals that spread to the world that Brazil was a racial democracy, and they just publish and stimulate the interracial relations,
Relationships. Yeah.
and not for love but for whitening people. We
Mm.
have a very racist expression that means to clean the womb,
Mm.
to clean the womb, to a black woman to have a relation with a white man, to have a cleaner, a lighter skin baby, and
Mm.
to have a light skin, a baby lighter than her, is to clean the womb.
Mm.
In consequence of this, people just live and don't connect. Who are they? Where are they from? Who are their ancestors? The people just don't know. Some of them. So we have like a black movement who look for black psychologists, and they arrive with some kinds of information about this.
Mm-hmm.
They have questions, but sometimes I receive people who are don't have this kind of discussion, and the work is reconnect with the roots and understand the factors who are influencing mental health, the political influence, and historical and spiritual, and the attitudes and behaviors who are influencing this. So what people fool, what people watch on TV, what kind of music, what people believe when they are relating with their systems on the work, on the family, you know. And sometimes I used to, today I was talking about this, the kind of, I don't know how to say this in English, encaminhamento. When you are attending and you need to ask help for another person. Sometimes we used to ask help for a psychiatrist. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I think that we have to look help from the priest, some kind of priest, to have more emergency intervention.
Emergency intervention, yeah.
You know, and I think like this. So, and as a school psychologist, I used to apply black psychology, African psychology on the imagericals, so the cultural elements. I used to put black people in all my presentations. This is important. I used to use samba songs, the African Brazilian cultural elements, samba, rap, jongo, capoeira, to put this on the work for. Don't matter what kind of themes we are discussing, but the environment is African organized.
Got it. Okay. I mean, which totally makes sense. I see Denisa, I think Denisa, I'm sorry if I'm saying your name incorrectly. She says, any book suggestions for those that wish to explore African psychology further? What would be your book suggestions? You kind of said some earlier.
Yeah.
Oh, good. I said it right, Denisa.
The book I like too much is Self-Healing Therapy from Foucault.
I feel like I got that. I'm always like turning around because I'm like, somebody else say something. I'm like, I got that book on my shelf. I do. I like that one. Self-Healing Therapy. What else? I'm not going to find it right now. But anyway, what else other than Self-Healing Therapy?
I like this, and I like Akbar Papers in African Psychology.
Okay. I don't have that one, but that is a good one. Yeah.
I like this. I know I have the Seeking the Saku.
Yes, I have that one.
Class. But I try, so I use like this. These books, they have the foundation, but I like the opportunity to have creative and use. I like this.
Yeah, well, this is the first one you said. Self-healing. I'm trying to put it on there. Self-healing, power, and therapy. And then I like this one too. This is another Baba Foucault's books, the Congo Art of Babysitting. But anyway, go ahead. You said you like
to take this, and because Brazil have a very pool of memories and practice who are African, but people don't know that this is African.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of practice on how we relate, how we have, for example, when we have newborn, the way that a black family care the newborn for don't take the moon, present to the moon. I don't know. Do I talk about to put the placenta? Just a minute.
Okay. And while she's doing that, I'm going to show y'all the other one that she talked about, which is Seeking a Saku. We actually did. I feel like I know where that one is. Let's see if I'm actually pulling it out. Boom! I did it. That's by Dr. Wade Nobles.
Yeah,
His website, he has all of his books that are there, so you can buy. It's just Wade Nobles. You can Google Wade Nobles, probably WadeNobles.com, but you can Google that and get that book. But anyway,
I was talking about the people put the placenta on the earth when the baby
in the tree next to the
born.
tree. Mm-hmm.
This is an African tradition.
Yeah,
but people don't know that this is African tradition. So I think that the work on Black psychology, or African psychology, people recognize, put name, because we have a question who is called most of cultural manifestations in Brazil, the most popular that all the world looked at and said, this is Brazilian, but this is not Brazilian, this is African Brazilian.
Wow.
Samba is not Brazilian. Samba is African Brazilian. Capoeira is not Brazilian. Capoeira is African Brazilian.
Yeah. And that's so interesting because I think that that's part of kind of that European erasure of Brazil. That I don't know, and I'm wondering for people that are listening that grew up in the U.S., did you know that Brazil was a predominantly African country when you were growing up? I know that I didn't know it was a predominantly African country. And the first time that I went to Bahia, from the moment I got in the airport, I was like, this place is completely African. Just everything from the food that you're eating, from like moqueca, which is, a really popular dish that's made with palm oil. I mean, it's an African dish. And I think you guys call it akara J instead of akara. Yeah. I mean, so there's like all these things that are, like you said, samba and capoeira. There's so many things that are part of the culture and get commercialized, and people don't realize that these things are fundamentally African, that they come from the Afro-Brazilians that are there in their culture and history.
Yes, it's true.
So Denicia says, what has your experience been like using these African spiritual practices for healing in spaces where they've been demonized? Yeah. That's something. Well, do you use anything from Candomblé at all in the practice?
No, I don't use African rituals, and so I know the word to talk is an African tradition. The word is powerful, but I don't use African rituals on clinical. I just ask help when people have. Sometimes people arrive to me and they practice African religion. Sometimes I said, what do you Babalorisha said about this?
See, yeah.
to have one spiritual view about the situation.
Yes.
To have one more opinion to see, but I don't offer because I believe that I'm not a specialist in this, and I believe that it's better when people have one priest or priestess, it's okay. But when they don't have, they have to look for one when they believe they
Yeah.
have trust there. But I don't do this. For me, it's I'm not a priest, but I try to show this possibility to see
Yeah.
it when people are suffering. Sometimes we have, you know, last month I have a client who was having suicidal ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Then I said, how many times you didn't speak with your priest?
Mm-hmm.
How many times? Oh, never, never. Once a year or so, go there and talk with her.
Mm-hmm.
Talk with her. And he was there. And today he was saying, it was so cool. You make me remember to talk with her because I was there just helping everybody, but I was not looking in myself. I
Yeah.
was just carrying another person, but there I was not carrying myself, and I was needing care. Now I
Yeah.
am okay. So I do this.
And part of what I have done over the years, I don't do clinical work anymore, but when I did do clinical work, is I did work with people and help them integrate. Like for my dissertation, just on my interest is how do you integrate people's spiritual practice, and particularly when it comes to African spirituality, how do we integrate that into therapy? So Denisa, in terms of what I did is I've
I
always
need to read your work. I need to read this. I didn't find on internet. This is a problem.
Yeah, no, it's there. Yeah, like on Google Scholar, if you put my name in,
I will
because I have like some,
look better.
yeah, and I talk specifically about that, like, so what does it look like when people are using their babalao, or the Akonfo and the Akan tradition, or the Mambo and the Haitian Vodun tradition. So when they utilize their African spiritual tradition, and kind of like what you said, I mean, I'm not an expert, although I am initiated. I don't function as a priest, and I don't do work for people. I'm a psychologist, and so one of the things that I do, and I have always found this funny, is I may tell somebody something in therapy, and then if that person is somebody that works with a priest, and I'll tell them, go talk to the priest. And then they go back and they talk to the priest, and the priest tells them through divination the same thing that I told them, and then they gonna believe him.
Yeah, sometimes it happens. Sometimes it happens. It's true. It's true. When the priest open the oracle and they say the same stuff.
And I'm just like, what? And so that, I mean, I've had that happen a number of times, and I'm like, oh, so now you're gonna believe it because they said it, because I told you that already. Yeah. But I think the key thing for me when it comes to any kind of spiritual system, so if I have Christian folks, I'm gonna work with them in terms of their faith of Christianity or Islam or Buddhism, is you're right, Denicia. So African spiritual traditions can be demonized, but I'm not, just because I practice an African spiritual tradition doesn't mean that I'm putting that on someone else. I meet people where they are at in terms of their spiritual system. And for me, that's part of African psychology, because African psychology is this belief that I don't have to proselytize, I don't have to harm, I don't have to force my beliefs on someone else. And I think that is, yeah.
I agree. Sometimes I receive Christians clients, Catholics, and I just listen and help to think and reconnect with the African ancestry, or to reconnect with how racism in Brazil make people grow believing that they are less,
Yes.
that they really are.
Yeah.
It's independent of you are Catholic or Christian or I don't know. Just politicize the
Mm-hmm.
suffering, the suffering that people brings to the client, as a clients,
Yeah.
and most of time. So to talk about anxiety
Mm-hmm.
when a black woman who is in a position of power on an office, she is a leader,
Mm-hmm.
and all time she is offended because she is fat and she use colored clothes. This
Mm-hmm.
is racism. People don't feel comfortable to see an African Brazilian woman in a position of power.
Yeah.
So I used to. I think that if I just apply uh, uh, the traditional psychology,
Mm-hmm.
I just focus on the side that she has about herself, and to breath, and the thoughts, the
Mm-hmm.
behavior. But I politicize how important and what happened in the mind of other people when say,
Yeah.
and how important is to the children see her there.
Yes. Yes.
The political responsibility
Yeah.
to stay in some places.
And what population of Brazil is Afro-Brazilian? I mean, what
Uh,
percentage of the population?
Actually, I think that 54%
Mm-hmm.
who are black and brown.
Mm-hmm.
We talk pardo,
Say it again.
like
Pahadu.
pardo.
Pahadu.
The light skinners,
Mm-hmm.
they used to talk pardo, and there's a political position into pardo people recognize that they have African ancestry.
Okay.
So is some steps black people seeing their self as black,
Mm-hmm.
and there's, a question of language.
Mm-hmm.
Here we use
Mm-hmm.
negro,
Mm-hmm.
including blacks,
Mm-hmm.
the dark skinned, and
Mm-hmm.
lights.
Okay.
Negro is the large group.
Mm-hmm.
Negro, pretos e pardos. And to make pardos, the light skin recognize themselves as negros,
Mm-hmm.
and then recognize of having an African ancestry.
Mm.
The two steps, people, is hard
You
to
start with one
see.
and then go to the
It's hard.
and there's an interesting thing of colorism in Brazil that is different than in the United States. Can you talk about colorism and like how that shapes people's identity?
Yeah, because it's like this is a result of the political of whitening,
Mm-hmm.
and people who have the lighter skin, the lighter, the more near to white features, for
Mm-hmm.
small nose,
Mm-hmm.
light hair, light skin,
Mm-hmm.
they have in this scale of racial hierarchy,
Mm-hmm.
hierarquia racial.
Yes.
They are higher,
Mm-hmm.
more white, more high, more high,
Mm-hmm.
and less, more African, more lower. And because these people have this misorientation. People are very misorientation here.
Mm-hmm.
People sometimes they believe that they are white, but they just have sometimes when with my features, when I have in a very lighter persons, I become more black. When I around about people darker than
Mm-hmm.
me are almost white.
Okay.
The behavior and the position, and it says to who you are. It's
Mm.
not just your features, but who you are, but how do you act as a white woman or as a black woman.
Okay. And I know in the U.S. the determination of whether or not you were black is kind of this historical thing of having one drop of black blood. But my understanding in Brazil, it's different. It just is based just on your skin color. Is that correct?
It's almost a lottery, a racial lottery.
A lottery.
Based on your tone of color. But it's hard because sometimes when you are in a I have a client who has lighter skin, but she has a black and afro hair, but she grew up in Bahia and all the family was very dark, like very dark skin, very dark. And she was created as a white girl. And she grew up believing that she was white because she was treated as a white because she came from a white mother, a white mother and a black father. She has light skin and afro hair. And when she left Brazil and go live in England, she is reconnecting, and now she said, I am black. All my life I was black. I was losing and erasing my culture when I was in Bahia. They took me off my culture, saying me that I was white and I wasn't. Here I am living racism and I am treating like a black woman. Then I know who I am. You know how crazy the stuff is. Because sometimes this happens, and sometimes it's difficult. Yeah, this how more lighter, more white, but different depending when talking to you. So the police in Brazil, the police and the jails are full of browns. The most, when you see the numbers of police brutality, who is on mass incarceration, they are not black, they are brown.
Really?
You know?
Why? So why is that? Why do you think that is?
I think that the system know who are each of us. I think that people in the individual life and the intimate relations, they have the benefits the benefits to have doubt of who they are. I don't know if I am black. I don't know if we have on the forms on the institutions the skin color option. You say what your skin color, and usually people when are asked, they answer, I don't know what my color. What do you think about me? How do you classify me? Is this a question on the schools, on the hospital, when to go to institutions to have to put your number, address, and your skin color? And people don't know how to answer. This is a very important information. They ask for other person. They don't know. They don't believe. They don't learn in their families who are they.
Wow. And I'm just thinking about psychologically just the impact of all of this, particularly when you said the client who's very light skinned, but then her hair is more African. So it's not based on your hair texture, it's based on your skin color. She gets thoroughly disappointed. She comes to the United States.
Because she used to straighten her hair.
Oh, got it.
When she was younger, they use that she has light skin, put products to relax, to straighten the hair, and she was passed by a white girl.
Wow.
She allowed the hair natural later.
Got it. Got it. Wow. Where do you think that things need to go in terms of psychology in Brazil? Like, what direction do you see things going?
I think that we have to. I think that sometimes Brazil is like an island.
Mm-hmm.
Brazil is huge, but the
Mm-hmm.
mentality is like an island because we are teach to think that our experience is very different from all the world. We are very special, like an island, and we talk about this that the language is a wall, a language to access different informations and different stories.
Yeah.
But we are talking to that to be multi-language is an African
Yeah.
skill. Most South Africa in the country, in the continent, they have more
Mm-hmm.
than one language.
Yeah.
And I think that now we're having more Black psychologists getting graduated and working on institutions on a clinical practice. And I think that we can uh, look better for our history
Mm-hmm.
and try to rewrite this history and change the discourses, change the imaginary, the social imaginary about who we are. And I think that we need more to have access to the production in US of
Mm-hmm.
Angola. People from Angola today they are talking a meeting about psychology in Angola.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We have to connect more as a diaspora to
Yes.
see other experiences,
Mm-hmm.
for understand ourselves as African diaspora too,
Yeah.
not just Brazilians,
Yeah.
but diasporics.
And I think what you're saying, it makes me think of as psychologists, Africans in America that practice African psychology or have African psychology is their worldview is important when we write or when we're doing things that we're thinking about translations of our work. That when we think of translations, oftentimes we think of Spanish, we may think of French. We never think of Portuguese. So
Mhm.
that is very important that we begin to think about Portuguese translations that, like you were saying earlier, being multilingual is an African skill. And to think about that, I know I always struggle. And because I told you the first time I ever heard Portuguese spoken was in 2018, the first time I went, or 2019, I don't remember. Whenever was the first time I went to Brazil, that was the very first time I heard Portuguese spoken. And just us figuring out how to struggle through the language barriers so we can communicate and share things. And I think for me, our challenge as African American psychologists is that we can think of ourselves as being on the island, that we are the only ones that are going through the struggle, that we're the only ones that is producing the writing, and that our brothers and sisters recognizing that from a diasporic perspective, that our brothers and sisters around the globe are having similar issues, and then we have to communicate with each other.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Talking, you say that about translating. I was translating some texts,
Mm-hmm.
and I have some brothers from. I have a brother from a black psychologist from Cabo Verde.
Mm.
I have one from Angola, who
Mm-hmm.
lives in Portugal.
Oh, I know him. That's what's
Do
his
you
name?
know him? Henda,
Yes,
Henda,
yes, I know him.
Henda is very friend.
Mm-hmm.
And just we need to connect and break this. I think that this thing of language is a colonial problem that we have as heritage. We
Mm-hmm.
need to resignify this
Mm-hmm.
and lose the shame. So my English is not perfect. Your Portuguese is not perfect, but we are connecting. We are You understand what I'm saying? I understood what you said. So the stuff must happen.
Yes. Well, and I keep saying that all the time. I'm just like, we're going to figure out how to connect. We're going to figure out because I mean, and I think this is the interesting thing because, like, literally, we'll know each other. We'll know people from different countries. So, like, I'm like, oh, the brother in Portugal, I know him. That I can say, oh, I know some people in Brazil. And, and I even think about our brothers and sisters in Colombia. I'm like, okay, we got to figure out.
We didn't connect because the language they speak Spanish. Is
Mm-hmm.
I think that we have to look as no more as an island and connect with different for resignify because when I was in 2011 when I was in US I was in a mid-year conference on
Mm-hmm.
ABC and one brother said to me, Baba, Dr. Mark Bowden,
Mm-hmm.
he said, "Oh, really? You leave Brazil to learn about African psychology in US? You live in Brazil. Go back to Brazil. Brazil is an almost African country." And I understood what he said about
Mm-hmm.
all the African heritage that we have here. We have quilombos still now. We
Yes.
didn't have just Quilombo dos Palmares in 1611, 19, but we have
Right.
quilombolas writing books right now.
Yes. Yes.
You
Yes.
know. So, and I was interested because I need to leave my country to meet the foreigner space to coming back to my space and look different from
Mm-hmm.
myself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This is special. When you meet the foreigner, the other place, you look for yourself on another way.
Yeah. Well,
No.
and that's one of the things that I often do is when I'm traveling to countries and people are asking about me bringing psychology there, and I'm like, you already have it. As African people, we already have psychology, like you said, the quilombos and some samba and capoeira, and just being the espiritistas. I know I'm saying that wrong. Like there are ways in which I mean the song, the dance, the food, the connection, the community, all of that stuff that I saw when I first got to Brazil. And I remember it was such a loving feeling that when I first went to Brazil, the people, I was at a conference, and the people at the conference, they were saying, "Did you know these people before you got here?" And I was like, "No." I just met them. It's this connection.
And the ancestors is recognized.
I was like,
The relatives meeting.
these
We are all relatives.
yes, yes. And I think that that is something that we have to recognize. We have psychology within our communities. We just have to open our eyes and look at what's in front of us already. That
Yes.
being said, my sister, Roberta Frederico, she is the founder of Sankofa Institute of Psychology in Rio de Janeiro and also a school psychologist. Thank you, my sister.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's very good to talk with you today.
It was good talking with you also. We have to do this again. Definitely.
Yes. We need to schedule this.
Yes.
We need to talk
Everyone.
more.
Yes, yes. I mean, I think we have a lot to be able to share within our community. Everyone that is listening, thank you. Please follow Roberta. She is at Sankofa Psycholica, which is I was gonna say French. It's not French. It's Portuguese for psychology.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Psychologia.
so, okay, Psychologia. Thank you. See, Sankofa Psychologia. And she is on Instagram. So definitely follow her. She's got some beautiful things that she is doing. If you have folks that are down in Brazil and that are working with our folks, our brothers and sisters down in Brazil, definitely tag her so they will know that she's down there. Take care, my sister.
Take care. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.